Hey Crafty friends, Weeds here from Crafty Kiwi Mama. I'm just popping in today to share a couple of cards I've created with some really amazing Halloween elements from Whimsy Stamps. I've used a mix of elements for these designs. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is the beautiful cardstock that I've used. Here's a card base that I've made with this amazing chartreuse paper from Cardstock Warehouse. They've been our sponsor for the last 2 months during our Halloween term, and they've provided the design team, the Halloweeners, for Whimsy Stamps with the most amazing range of papers, and I've shown several of these, or most of these, in fact all of these, during the last few videos that I've done, so hopefully you've caught a few of those. But this one here, I was the most excited to work with. How cool is that colour for just like a zingy Halloween green? I've created these two cards with this chartreuse colour. And the first one here I want to talk to you about is using the Edward stamp set. And if you've not come across that yet in Whimsy's Halloween lineup, this is actually new to Whimsy this Halloween. You can still see I've got a couple missing sentiments because I've actually just used them. But these characters, they're just striking and amazing. And if any of you are Edward Scissorhand fans, this is obviously the inspiration for this stamp set. And I absolutely love it. Loved the movie. I know another of our design team watches the movie regularly with her daughter and absolutely adores it. So this has been a real sort of fan favourite amongst our design team. And I was super excited to design with these. Some of you may realise that I've been involved with the 13 Nights of Halloween promotion that we're running at the moment, and I've been super busy getting the little boxes and the little trinkets inside the boxes ready to go, you know, for the video reveals for that. So I haven't had a lot of time to do crafting with our new stamp set. So I was really excited to have some time yesterday just to sit down and to create. So I've got some footage that will follow of the creative process, but I wanted to just share with you right now what I've used for the actual designs for this. So this is the Edward stamp set. Edward CWSD 336A is the number for the stamp set, and then the other elements I've used is the Dreamland 2, and this is the girls set, but there are two. I've got another one here which I can show you very quickly, still in its packet. This is the Dreamland 1 set, which has boy characters in it, but they don't just have these slooky characters, because I think this paper is amazing. It does have some characters on some of the printing, and obviously I've kind of taken my influence from that by putting Edward into that scene. So it does have some of these little characters already built into the scenes, but it also has it's got a couple of sentiment pages which are really cool, but it also has these really amazing planar sort of backdrop scenes, which I think can go beyond Halloween. I think these would be amazing as sort of brightly coloured Christmas backgrounds and things like that. They're not so spooky, like there aren't spiders coming down from the trees and things like that, that I think it can cross beyond Halloween and into that more surreal Christmas kind of vibe. So I have plans to try and pair this set with some Christmas stamps, but I've definitely kept with the Halloween vibe for this one. And the first card that I've made uses the smaller of the Edward stamp sets, and I don't know if you'll be able to catch it on film, but you can see I've put some silver through his hair to kind of give that a little bit of definition, because it's a very solid black stamp. And I've used VersaFine Clear in Nocturne Black to stamp the image. This took 3, maybe 4 stampings using my Misty stamp positioning tool to get that colour. And what I did was I stamped Edward high enough on the little pathway so that his face was in the lightest portion of that little background section of that panel, and chose this particular panel so that his face would be quite pale. And then I've gone in, and it will show in the later footage, with some Copic pens to bring some colour into his face. I'm just trying to think, did I use Copic for him? No, I think I actually used Zig Real Brush Markers for this one, because I used the VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. This is waterproof ink, so it's better used with watercolour pens as opposed to Copic, which is better if you use something like the Memento Tuxedo Black. So for him, I've gone over the clothes with a darker grey from the Zig pens, and then on his face, so you can still see there's like a bluey, yellowy section in the middle, but I've gone over his face with 2 shades of the Zig pens. And then all I did simply, once he was coloured up, was add in those silvery highlights to his hair, and I'm not sure if you'll see that particularly well, I hope you can, that the little knife sections on his the scissors on his hands have like a metallic fleck that I've added into that, just using this Jelly Roll metallic pen. I think it's called Sparkle. It's like an iridescent silver kind of pen in it. It's really cool for those kind of accents. I did add a little bit of white back into his eye because they were very yellow from the background, so that's had a bit of white Jelly Roll over it. And then I just added in some very simple embellishments. I played around with sequins on the trees just to see if I could, add a bit of interest and sort of sparkle into those. The problem being that the sequins that I was using they were multicoloured, but they were dark. And so they actually ruined that whole beautiful bright rainbow feel that it had. So I chose against doing that in the end. But I did add some of the little blue-black iridescent gems on the side. Sorry, I keep knocking things. And then the next amazing bit I wanted to share with you was that frame. This is a frame, I believe Deb Davis designed this frame. And we had a stamp set a while back that was the same pattern but much smaller. And I remember at the time thinking, what a quirky, fun, cool design it would be cool to have as a die cut frame. And so this Halloween, she's actually produced it as a much bigger frame, and she's done it as a die cut instead of the stamp, and it's so cool and really quirky and fun for something like this. I've taken the little sections of that die cut panel, the paper that I've used, and then paper pieced them back into place, and you'll see that in the later footage. I won't go on about it too much now because all will be revealed in a minute or two, but I will show you the inside of the card, which I took one of the sentiment stamps from the Edward set that says people are scared of things that are different. And obviously I used the very rainbow colours from the front of the card to stamp onto the inside just on a white piece of cardstock that I've glued into place on the coloured cardstock. Isn't it gorgeous cardstock? I just love that chartreuse. And that chartreuse just was a really cool sort of pop of colour for the frame on that particular card. So that's that card there. And then the card behind it, I've used this amazing frame from Whimsy Stamps, and I'm going to have to look it up and pop it up in the top right corner when I do the editing of the video, because I can't remember the name of this. I think it's called the Thorny frame, but it's such a gorgeous frame, and I think it can again be one of those things that can go beyond Halloween. It was released, I believe, last Halloween or possibly even the Halloween before. I'll have to look. And I've loved this ever since it was released, but I struggle sometimes when something is ornate or gorgeous like this. It's like my creativity takes a little while to kind of kick into place, or for the ideas to flow freely, and I often will look at what my design team have done and go, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? Because yeah, sometimes the mojo's not there for me. I get very busy with the sort of management side of things rather than the creative side sometimes, and my mojo struggles a little bit, but it had no struggle with this whatsoever. I picked up this image and just thought straight away, he belongs in a frame. Just the way that he's done with the base of the design there, it kind of reminded me of, a Raphael bust. And so immediately I thought of the Thorny frame and thought he's got to go into that Thorny frame. And then just came up with ideas of how I was going to pull it off to make it look sort of substantial and give it a bit of definition and dimension. So the first thing I wanted to do was create a background. And my immediate thought when I wanted to work with him was that I would use the this particular patterned paper, which is the vintage wallpaper rubber stamp set from Whimsy Stamps, which I've put onto like a shimmery dark red cardstock, but I've heat embossed it. I've stamped it in black, so I've used VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink, which is brilliant for this technique, and then embossed it with clear embossing powder over and got a really beautiful finish on that. The only problem was when I put Edward over the top, the blue here and the red, I don't know, there was just so much going on that he wasn't really elevated on that background. I felt like he kind of sunk into it and the colours he didn't pop, if you know what I mean, or what I'm trying to say. So even though I was kind of ready to go with that one, I'll save that for another make because I absolutely adore it. That will make a re-entrance at another stage. But I decided I would use that chartreuse background paper again with the blue. I think the green and the blue are so striking together. And I had a look at the old footage of Edward Scissorhands. I just found a reel and had a look quickly at the way that they'd done his makeup and things. And he is very pale. He's not, he's not human. He is a manufactured creature, basically created by somebody who passed away. And he's left in this sad, forlorn world, not knowing how to make his way in the world. And he's such an interesting character, but he doesn't look human. I gave him a blue palette because it is like robotic, artificial palette. And I love the way that turned out on that sort of bust of him. But once I'd finished colouring that aspect of things and I'd added in the little silvery highlights and things like that, there was a lot of white in his hair, and I just felt he needed an additional lift. And so I came at it with these very electric blue. I've actually used 3 shades, not that you can really tell, but it does make a difference. 3 shades of kind of electric blue Copic markers in his hair to just kind of raise the look of that bust, the character a little bit. And then, as I say, some metallic highlights, which I'm hoping, and if I shift it in the right light, you can see that is slightly metallic there. I also used the metallic finish. I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think this is the Quartz cardstock from the Stardream collection from Cardstock Warehouse. It's a sort of opalescent white. It's just beautiful, but it has a metallic-y sort of finish to it. So I've used that cardstock to be the matte behind him because obviously he's got a lot of white. I've used the die that comes with that set to cut him out. I don't know where I've put that at the minute, or I would show you. But it's got a very cool die set that you can buy separately to match with the Edward set. And it's got quite a broad white background there, and I felt if I put that onto a coloured background, it was all going to be about the surround, the white, rather than the character itself. So I used that Stardream Quartz paper just to stop that real contrast between the edge of the hair and the white, and I think it worked really well, and it's actually really beautiful shimmery cardstock, so does the trick for me. Then I used 2 different papers to die cut the thorny frame. The one behind is a plain black cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse. Onyx, I think it might be, the black paper. It's from their Foundations cardstock range. I've used it in a previous one, so I'll link it in the footnotes below. And then the surrounding black cardstock, which I've used as the card base. You can hopefully see there's this beautiful like metallic shot shimmer in that, is the Stardream Onyx paper from Cardstock Warehouse. And so I finished this up after doing the background on the chartreuse, which I've used this stencil to stencil, and it is Whimsy's Harlequin stencil. I've used this side that has the extra sort of glitchy, imperfect bits. There's a beautiful perfect Harlequin, and then a quirky Harlequin in the middle, and then this one which has sort of just like distressed details in it, which I really love. That's my favourite. I use it a lot. You can see it's a little bit discoloured compared to the rest of the the set. But I've used texture paste, black texture paste for that particular. Have I still got it on my desk? I can show you. Distress texture paste, black opaque from Ranger, which is such a buttery, creamy, lovely texture paste to use, and just a normal little palette knife to put that through the stencil. I did it very thin so it dries incredibly quickly, and on that chartreuse cardstock, the colour plan cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse, that texture paste just grabs and stays. The surface took it really, really well, and nothing's chipped off. I've had problems with other cardstock, sometimes if it's too shiny a surface, etc., it will lift. It hasn't at all with this, and I've had great success with that one, so that was just lovely to use. And then I finished off the inside of the card with just a very simple sentiment that says, everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it. And I went through a couple of different inks to try and figure out what was going to be the go with that. The Verdant Versifying Clear was too bright, but the Avocado was actually a really good match for the chartreuse cardstock. So I used the Avocado to do the stamping on the inside. And again, just glued in basically a page of loose white paper so that there'd be a surface I could easily write on for the message. And then that's that particular one. I did toy with the idea of adding in some of these blue gems to kind of work with his hair, which I may still do up in the top sort of right and bottom left corner. I'm just toying with the idea of that right now. So there may be follow-up photos that show some gems in the shot. I'm really happy with it as is, so I probably won't, but I'm just trying to work out how to make the blue kind of work more cohesively, like just to add in another little element that will tie it all in, is what I'm trying to say. And then that's essentially it. I do have some footage to follow, which I will speed up dramatically because it does take me a while to create. As you all know, what looks like it's a 10-minute piece of footage usually takes a crafter a couple of hours to put together. And there are 2 makes in this particular one, so I'll shoot through that really quickly. And as always, if you have any questions about my process or I've forgotten to detail a particular element that I've used, please feel free to leave me a comment and ask me questions. I will more than happily answer anything that you ask below. And if you enjoyed the video that you see and enjoy the tutorials that I'm leaving, please consider giving it a thumbs up. At the moment, my channel is incredibly new and the robot overlords can't know that you like my content unless you leave either a comment or a thumbs up. So please know that I would be deeply grateful if you're enjoying it, if you did that. And I look forward to sharing some more creative adventures with you very, very soon. Stick around if you want to see the footage of the rest of it. Otherwise, if this little overview was enough for you, I wish you a beautiful day. Thanks so much. Bye.